Mic check. It's about that time, baby. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Here we go. The Sinclair Show is on. It's on. Run it to your friends. Come on. Come on. Come on. It's a moment of the show tonight. Mailbag is time. Sinclair is on the mic. What's going on, Lady Elegance? Once again, it's on. You still trouble in your home. Got you tripping. Don't know right from wrong. Send your letters to the show so we can talk you through. Get the answers to your questions because we see that truth. Sometimes you doubt yourself, lost your health. Faith is on the fence, but you believe that Jesus knows your well. Keep it moving, spirit flowing because we're here to provide someone to lean on when you're falling Wednesday. 8 and 9 and it's on. Once again, it's on. You're listening to the only morning show. When people at night coming to you live and direct, trying to beat the thunderstorms. That's right. They tell me that the rain is coming. Can you all stand the rain? I don't know if you can or not, but it's coming. So if I mess around and get off the show early on y'all, understand why. Y'all know, like back when y'all was young, when you still did what you was told to do, you would get off the telephone, turn the TV off. You would do all kind of stuff when it got ready to rain because that's what they told you to do in your house. Don't act brand new. Don't act like I'm the only one that when the storm started coming, that they made y'all do all kind of crazy stuff. Yeah, that right there. But anyway, first and foremost, I want to thank all of you all who continue to send your mailbag questions, comments, thoughts, pitchforks, whatever you want to call it, to Sinclair Talk@outlook.com. I almost forgot my own email address. Sinclair Talk@outlook.com. We're going to continue to address as many as possible each night. We on the air to reach you, the valued listener. Now, for those of you who don't know what it means to be a valued listener, that means there would be no reason for there to be a me if it wasn't a you. Matter of fact, if some of y'all didn't get on every week for the last 7 years, I could be getting more sleep. Y'all are part of the sleep deprivation crew, if you will, because I could be resting. All right. I'm just let that be part of what y'all understand happens out here in radio land. And we got an interesting topic to talk about tonight, but I'm gonna put y'all up on game on that in a little while. But let me see. Matter of fact, Lady Elegance Pritchard. I'm gonna show y'all what she said. She said, back in the day when you was growing up, you had to cut them lights off and let the Lord do his work, is what her grandmother used to tell her. All y'all know about that. Well, not all y'all, because some of y'all some little devils. Y'all been devils your whole life, so you ain't had to do nothing. Like Nikki Carter, I'm sure she ain't had to shut off nothing in her house when the storm came. She probably played outside in the rain and lightning. That's what little mean kids do. That right there. But yes, we all had some thunderstorm guidelines, if you will. When it started raining, you got to shut up. Shut up and don't say nothing. That right there. Let me see who up here. Nikki Carter, what's going on? Glad to see you. Jay Dizzle done checked in. He said he up in this piece. Jay Dizzle, tell the audience what would happen when it started thunderstorming when you was growing up. What you had to do? You had to shut your face. Ain't gonna be no talking up in here while it's storming outside. Turn off them TVs. The only thing y'all had going in y'all house was that box fan in the window. You know, the one you used to talking to, talking about, man, used to make yourself sound like a little electronic robot. Yeah, that. Y'all did the same thing with the thunderstorm. Jay Dizzle said, turn off all the lights and be quiet. Man, y'all just reading y'all little comments. You mean to tell me that your grandparents, your grandma was acting like your grandma was acting like Teddy Pendergrass when it started storming. Your grandma be in there talking about, turn off the lights and light a candle. See, that's what I'm talking about. Y'all don't never be. See, I'm a critical thinker, so I be putting stuff in my mind and picturing it. And as I read y'all tell these old school stories, you know, it has me feeling some kind of way. You know, y'all believe in all kind of stuff, and it be good Christians too. Good Christian folks be having these rituals that they do. What you turning off the lights and TVs for? Because God got it raining outside. What you thinking about? What you think gonna happen? I'm really just asking that in sincere. If I could go back and talk to my grandma, I would ask the question, what we turning off these lights for? I just need to know, you know, because I'm not a processor. James, keep what's going on. But y'all know that's how it was back in the day. They had things coming. You know, when it starts storming outside, you got to turn off the lights. When the electric company come by, you got to act like ain't nobody home. Johnny said, we did it because grandma said so. Yeah, that's why we did it. But I'm just trying to understand. Jay Dizzle said, you either turn them lights out and shut up and sit down on that floor of that couch, or you gonna catch a fade from grandma. But I'm just saying, doesn't it make you, now that you are grown, a little bit more mature? Some of y'all, not all. Don't it make you wonder what was going through the minds of these good God-fearing people? They know Jesus got your back. You ain't got to worry about the rain. I'm just saying. Because I remember a couple of things. My grandma used to have like a bunch of stuff out there in that garden. If you was out there working in that garden and it started raining and you wasn't finished picking that stuff, you was going to keep picking. I don't care how wet your little head got. Yeah, I remember those days. Johnny probably don't remember that because Johnny only had to do some work in the summertime. He really didn't have to do work like, hey, matter of fact, before we start talking about today's topic, I just want to, hold on. Johnny said, we wondered back then, it was told because I said so. Well, I don't remember asking that question, so I don't know about that piece. But y'all know something. Let's reminisce for a while. How many of y'all grew up in an environment, right? Like, I grew up in an environment where I was around my grandma my whole childhood, right? And so, for me, and I could say this, and it is irrefutable, I might add, I was my grandmother's favorite, probably because I worked with her my whole life. Now, my cousins and all of them, they'll probably try to slide in one and say, no, you wasn't. But they know. Let's keep it a stack. I was my grandmother's favorite because I was the hardest worker out of all of them. Yes, I confess. Hold on. Nikki Carter talking about us little rays of sunshine didn't get wet. Nikki, Carter, you didn't get wet because Satan's minions don't get wet. You got that hell heat on you. Let me see. Talia Matthews, what's going on? Now, Talia Matthews was one of the ones that grew up and really didn't do no outside work either. As a matter of fact, let me tell y'all something. See, you had different groups. Like Jay Dizzle was in the group that came down in the summertime. So he was a summertime. He was like a seasonal worker, if you will. How many of y'all was part of the seasonal worker? Meaning you didn't catch the 365 work product. You came down when school was out for the summer, and you know they had to get acclimated because they wasn't emotionally there. You know, when you grow up in the city and you come down to the country for the summertime, you got to get acclimated. See, I stayed I was like the good books say, I stayed ready so I ain't had to get ready. Okay. Be ye also ready. Then you had those that was a little more sensitive. So they was like, I would hate to describe some of the young folks growing up in that time had inside the house positions. Now, I don't want to say they were house Negroes. I don't want to say that because I know some of y'all don't like the connotation, but I don't ever really remember seeing Taya outside doing anything. She was the one most likely to start crying or something, so she ain't really had to do a whole lot. She was an inside worker, if you will. So Johnny fell into a group called a seasonal worker. Let me see, Johnny talking about, yeah, we didn't have them ashy Flintstone feet. Yeah, but you got them now. Ty said, there you go. I'm just keeping it a stack because I want the people, we reminiscing tonight before we get knee deep into something. See? And so Johnny J. Dizzle was a seasonal worker. Taya was a inside worker, more likely to snitch on you then and now. Let's be clear. Taya do got a snitching gene, a tell-all gene, if you will. And y'all out there in listening land, y'all know what category y'all fall into. Okay? Then you had, Big Rod in the house. Big Rod, we reminiscing right now for a little bit. So, Big Rod, to get you up to speed, we're talking about individuals who either grew up around a grandma or grandfather and had to do a certain type of work, and you had them cousins that were, you either fell into a group where you was the type of cousin that lived around there and did a lot of work, i.e. me, or you had those cousins that came down in the summertime and you would call them seasonal workers. Then you had them house Negroes like Taya, where she really was a little too soft and sensitive. She couldn't handle the heat work. So she was a snitch, if you will. She would tell on everybody. Hey, mama just reminiscing, talking about these folks. So what Miss Carter say? Tell him to put some respect on your name. Oh, she had a lot of respect on her name because she was voted most likely to tell on somebody then and now. Come on now. And then you had those that were somehow they got caught up in the sales process and they started off as a seasonal worker and somehow wind up getting caught in the mix and turning into a full-time worker, but they never was really very good at it, but still tried. That's probably James, if you will. He had a dual role. He was a seasonal worker, then he turned into a full-time indentured servant, but he was kind of suspect on his work product, okay? And so as I think back, no wonder I was my grandmother's favorite, because I was the hardest worker of them all. No need to be angry, but there was some benefits to it, okay? Yeah, James, don't, now there's nothing wrong with being you couldn't help you were sold into full-time work in, matter of fact, let me give y'all a better name. James went from being a seasonal worker to being a sharecropper, if you will. We're going to put that on him, sharecropper. But he wasn't all that great at it because he hadn't had enough experience because he had simply been a seasonal worker. What Big Rod talking about? Big Rod said it was a summertime cousin. No, Big Rod said he was a summertime cousin that would come down and hang with the granddads. Yeah, see? So you was a seasonal worker. You got, Big Rod, you only had to do things in the summertime. Yes. And it's okay. I want y'all to be proud of the role you played in the historical efforts of the South. Okay? There's nothing wrong with it. Now, there are some that they were a little more shifty. Hold on. James, he said you weren't good at your job. Hey, that's nothing to be. Listen, I know a lot of people that started off as seasonal workers that were not perfectionists at doing some of the more rugged tasks. They did what they could, you know, but if you haven't grown up having to cut wood and plant stuff and use the hoe, not that kind, but the ones that you use out there when you're in the garden. I'm just saying that there's a certain type of physical strength and characteristics that you got to have when you're that from the cradle. When you come in, I mean, you got to readapt when you're a seasonal worker. Okay? And if y'all think back to this, I don't even know how we got on this subject, but it's a very good topic, because if y'all think back, some of the things that you didn't get in the city that you got in the South, like my grandmother she was a taskmaster, meaning she would assign you tasks. Matter of fact, she'd come get you in the morning like you was really out there on the plantation. Now, I'm being honest with y'all. I can validate this. I can validate it because my mama's own. But she would have you out there. My grandmother would come get you early in the morning. And so when they say back in the day, they used to work from dusk to dawn, dawn to dusk, whatever. Yeah, dawn to dusk. Uh-oh. Here go another one. Cassandra wasn't even a seasonal worker. I don't recall her ever doing that. She might have shelled a few peas or something, but Cassandra, no, I don't remember her being out there. She was definitely, yeah, she wasn't even a seasonal worker. She was probably in the kitchen too. Yeah. I believe she was one of them exploited kitchen workers. But nonetheless, my grandmother would get you up early in the morning, and you would begin your day of activities. And in the South, your activities could encompass quite a few things, because there was a lot going on the proverbial plantation. Because, hold on, Cassandra trying to get credit for something. I don't really know if we remember you being out there. Who was asleep? Come on now, you can't even make nobody believe that, girl. First of all, I don't want none of y'all to believe that Cassandra was out there baking in the sun on a regular basis. Hold on. We all was, and I live with. Hold on. First of all, I said you got sold into indentured serving in the later years of your life, but don't act like you didn't start off a seasonal worker. See, people, this is the reason why it is difficult from a historical basis to give an accurate account, because nobody wants to accept what their role in history was. Now, all of a sudden, everybody was a hard worker. Everybody worked their whole life out in the fields. Stop it, people. Stop it. My grandmother would be ashamed to hear them talk as if they were a part of the mysterious play. Let me see what she said. She said, I did double duty. I had to go in the garden first, then had to cook and clean when the sun came up. Oh, dear, look at Shakespeare. She's claiming those. Listen, let us make sure we are clear. I am not saying that you were not a valuable asset to the indoor community. I'm saying there's a difference in the level of work. James said, but you said I was trash. No, I never said that you was trash, James. That's your emotional perspective. What I said was that you weren't the best at it because it wasn't your natural talent. When you live in the city and you spend the majority of your time in the city, then when you come down for your seasonal migration work, you have to get back acclimated to the work product. That's what I said. You took it that way because you want to be viewed as being in the rough cut always, and that is not so. What is Nikki Carter talking about? You weren't the only one doing work. I never said I was the only one. I said we did have seasonal sharecroppers that would come into town from up north, I might add. Certainly we had some help on the plantation. But I was there 365 days a year, slaving and doing those things that most of you would dread. Hold on for a second. What is that? They having a whole conversation? Because I remember he doesn't remember because he was a toddler. Girl, come on now. You ain't did nothing, Ty. Ty used to cry all the time. Don't make me make my mama check in and tell the truth on you, Ty. You ain't did nothing but cry. Cassandra said, yeah, we were city kids. Shout out to the Bronx. Cassandra, that's what I'm saying. Put some respect on the fact that you all were from up north and you came down in the summertime. That is exactly, ladies and gentlemen, Cassandra has told you all the truth. They were from up north, as I said from the beginning. They would come down in the summertime and they would become acclimated over the summer and return home as the fall and school year would begin. Now, ain't that what I said from the start? That's all I'm saying right there. I'm just telling facts, people. See, I did not have an opportunity to leave the plantation. I worked my hands to the bones. Yes, I did. And see, Cassandra, once again, is truthful. She is validating that Taya was a tear child, always crying to prevent herself from having to participate in the manual labor. Oh, I wish I could get someone to shout out. There's nothing wrong with it, people. While some of you won't confess to your activities, I'm just letting you all know we've all been in one of those roles. Either you lived there and had a 365-day-a-year role in it, or you had seasonal work permits, which allowed you to come from up north or some other location to your grandparents, where you had a few weeks to acclimate and get your hustle on. And then some of you, as I stated correctly, were like James, who at a certain point found himself being sold from up north down to the plantation, where it was culture shock because no longer could he claim West Side from the Bronx. He had to come on down here and become a country guy. That's all I'm saying. Everything I'm telling y'all is facts. I keep it a stack. See what I'm saying, Nikki Carter? Everything I'm going to tell you is going to be the truth. And I want you all to know that in some ways, the indentured servants who came down for the seasonal work had it a little bit rougher than those of us who were bred into this way of life, because we was built for it. It's a little bit different when you have to consider, as the school year ends, your days of being in the high life back then with the shell-toe Adidas and the fat shoelaces and all of the perks that came from being up north. You found yourselves in the dirty South, getting your hands acclimated to the soil. I'm just saying. Now we got some running around here like James trying to act like history have shortchanged him. Big Rod said, I developed my work ethic by being around my grandparents. Absolutely, Big Rod. That's what I'm talking about. But see, Big Rod, we got something like James that's a little shifty with it. He wants history to view him as a full-time one. No need. There is no disrespect in being from up north and traveling to the south with your work visa for seasonal work. I tell me he was a baby, so when the rest of us were grown and gone, he was the only one left for a few years. Listen, Taya, listen. You've been crying since you was in the crib. You was crying when you was in middle school. You was crying when you was in high school. It's okay. That's how you got the slave masters to allow you to stay inside the home. You trick them with the emotions of your teary eyes. Lady Elegance said they don't know nothing about picking tobacco and churning butter. Whoa, Lady Elegance. Now you done went all the way back to the real slavery. Yes, you know when you came to the South and everybody had an Uncle Bob. You remember back in the day, you had certain names going on. You had an Uncle Bob, or Uncle Lewis. You had names like that. See, you ain't got them old school names. Ain't no more Lewises. Everybody that you know that's named Lewis is at least, I promise you, y'all can't find me one Lewis under 50 right now. I don't believe there is no. Nikki Carter said, Ty Masters, I can tell there's some stretching of the truth here. Okay. Nikki Carter, you think I'm stretching the truth? I can give you some references and they'll tell you that Ty wasn't out there in them fields like that. But yeah, now that we think about it, it was a different time back then. Certainly it was. Matter of fact, I don't even think that is anybody even, matter of fact, all y'all got them old school names. Well, not Nikki. That's one of them iffy names. Nikki Carter, is that what's your real name? Now that I think about it, because Nikki is not a name of somebody your age. Yes. See, all y'all using them super names. Because we all got names that they don't make no more. Yes, I must confess. Ty, what you talking about? Not me. Y'all see that? Ty talking about she don't have one of them names. You know why she don't have one of them names? That right there. I told y'all all along. See? She's right. She doesn't have a in the South doing work type name. Think about it, people. That's because her mama knew she wasn't going to be able to do no work. She couldn't give her no real name. She had to give her something different. Big Rod said they did hogs, cows, chickens, worked on cars, learned about gardening. See, that's what I'm talking about. Chris Parks laughing at y'all. See, you start thinking about these names, the name will tell you something. What up, Chris? Glad to see you. Think about it. Let's go through these list of names. And I ain't talking about these aliases that y'all got up here. All right? You can tell about what age somebody might be. First of all, if we start off with Gwendolyn, we know Gwendolyn is over 50. Proud of it, but we can tell by Gwendolyn that is not a 1990s name or later. Am I right, people? Johnny Mac is not a 1990s name or later. James is not a 1990s name or later. Nikki is not going to tell us what her real name is because we know Nikki is a club name, and so that we know that's not her name. Don't give us the truth. Cassandra is not a 1990s name or later. Let me see. What else? Rod, we know that. First of all, we know Rod is for something else. That's the abbreviated. So we already know Rod is 50 or older. First of all, that man said he be out there working with, back in the day, he grew up working with hogs, cows, chickens. Yeah, that's not a 1990s name. Cassandra, you can say it was a northern name all you want to. Listen, I don't know why y'all around here with these emotional attachments to it. What up, Xavier? Well, we know that's a 90s name. We're going to let that one go. But I'm trying to tell y'all, right now, you can look at a name and tell what time period it was from. Unless they was in the house. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Robin Williams, what's going on? You can look at a name like Robin and tell she's got to be 50 or older. That's not a brand new name. Uh-oh, Annie Moore, glad to see you. When your name is Annie, we know that is not a 1990s name or later. All names will tell us a story. Big Rod said Cassandra Leanne. I'm just trying to tell y'all people, facts is facts. You can, if a person tells you their full name, you can just about guess how old they are. And every now and then you got somebody like Ty with an old weird name that you can tell by her name she ain't never really did no hard work. I'm just saying. I need some more lemonade. But I'm just telling you. You can check names, and names will tell you the approximate time frame that a person came from. Like my mama named Geraldine. You know, anybody named Geraldine got to be 60 or older. You just do. Nikki Carter, tell us what your first name is, what your government name is. Uh-oh, Lady Elegance Gwendolyn said her name is Teresa. Gwendolyn Teresa Pritchard. Now, I don't care what part of the country you from. That means that you have got to be greater than 50. Matter of fact, they don't even make Teresa's no more. When the last time you know? I think Teresa stopped in the 70s. Yes. Because everybody, once you hit the 80s and 90s, uh-oh, y'all. Think about it. Here we go, another one. How you doing, Essie Shepherd? Glad to see you. That's my armor bearer. Look at her name, Essie Shepherd. We don't have to guess. They stopped making S's, I think probably in the 70s. So your name pattern will tell you approximately what time period you're from. I'm just saying. That's just reality. Some of y'all up here don't want to go to confession, but it's all right. I ain't even trying to hide all that. I just wanted to give y'all a little dose of reality. I didn't know it was going to turn into the Lion game. But anyway, let's get to talking about the subject matter tonight. And the subject matter came because somebody sent me this. And I keep telling you all, I ain't talking about that's the world according to Sinclair. Tell me one name I was wrong about then. You know what, Ty? Ain't nobody messing with you. You a snitch anyway. Your own mama said you snitch. Nah. But it says an aspiring doctor left to die in the lake by friends makes a remarkable recovery as family seeks arrest of alleged pusher. Someone said, I don't have a middle name, but I'll borrow that one. Now, I want y'all to think about this. And the reason why I put this up, because I've been receiving more and more information about folks going on trips with so-called friends and either being killed and or assaulted and or almost passing away. And I'm saying this because some of you all, and I said this at church not long ago, y'all need to stop being so friend thirsty. Meaning you got to have somebody in your life to validate you, that you give a title to. Now, they said Christopher Gilbert is talking to his family and eating again less than a month after doctors described him as practically brain dead and put him on life support machines, according to his family. All right. The 26-year-old has since been taken off life support, but he is still recuperating physically and working on memory loss problems. Gilbert spent about 10 straight minutes underwater after a so-called friend allegedly pushed him off a dock at a Farmville restaurant on April the 14th. With the group of alleged friends failing to pull him from the lake as he was submerged. He might have died had it not been for the heroics of Dawson Faust, a 20-something restaurant patron not connected to the group who dove into the water to make a rescue. Gilbert's family is now planning a civil suit against the restaurant, alleging it failed to properly restrict access to the lake. His family is also seeking an arrest of the woman who allegedly pushed Gilbert and thinks cops are letting the friends slide because they're all white and Chris is black. Had Chris, a black male, pushed a white female into the lake, he would be arrested, Payne said, adding that the family doesn't want any outsized persecution of the woman, but just for the letter of the law to be followed accordingly. Now, let me say this. We had a young lady from North Carolina that went to, I believe it was Mexico or one of those cute islands on vacation with her friends. She winds up being assaulted, allegedly, and died. And I do not know if there has been anyone arrested as of this time for that. And they know who everybody that was on the trip with them. And I'm saying these things because, again, there have been multiple instances of late where people are hanging out with so-called friends and it goes negative. You ought to know the energy of somebody for more than a few weeks and a few months before you decide you want to take trips with them. Now, I'll be the first to ask this Christopher Gilbert, if you can't swim, what was you doing playing around the water anyway? See, first and foremost, you have a African-American male. Let me see what y'all talking about. Jonna said, don't invite them friends. Nikki Carter said they ain't friends. Lady Elegance said, Shaquilla Robinson died in Capo, Mexico, and none of the Capo 6 was charged. That's the lady's name. But I want y'all to think about this. And I want to be respectful of, because I've got some Anglo-Saxon brothers and sisters who are wonderful people. Downright friendly to be around. But I want you to factor in your minds. What made Christopher Gilbert believe that these people saw him as a friend? And if you, my friend, Johnny said, nowadays people play too much, everyone ain't playing. That right there. But I'm trying to process, and have been, what made, if I'm your friend, I know whether or not you can swim, especially if we round water. Because what's the first thing that folks say when they can't swim and they round water and folks start joking around? First thing we tell them in our community is, hey, look, don't play with me because I don't play with water like that. That's the first thing. And they could have been doing some horseplay, although Christopher Gilbert is now saying he wasn't horseplaying around with him. But what I am processing is you got some friends, alleged friends, and you are pushed in the water, fall in the water by accident or otherwise, and all of them can swim and nobody jumped in to get you? That right there. And we're not talking about after a few seconds. They say this dude was underwater for 10 minutes. That right there. Animal says, so he was the only black person there and they gonna let him drown? They weren't friends. Maybe they wanted him dead, just saying. The allegations that his family is saying is that is exactly what they believe happened. Because he said that the female pushed him in the water. That's the first part of it. So she allegedly pushed him in the water, and nobody from his squad, from his crew, jumped in to help him out. Now, I submit this, that I believe that I am saying this with some level of confidence, that I concur with the assessment that it is more likely than not that if the roles had been reversed, that if it had been 4 or 5 minority males standing around and either a white male or white female was pushed by one of them, allegedly, in the water, and no one jumped in for 10 minutes, and she or he was pronounced brain dead, I believe that society would have a problem with it because of the optics. And that's what the family of Mr. Gilbert is saying, is that because their son was the only minority there, and the accused happens to be a white woman, and the other friends were white as well, that law enforcement is not seeking to hold accountable anybody who was in the alleged party. Now, I read that there are some video, and I can't say for sure. Corey Parks, what's going on, my brother? And I can't say for sure because I haven't seen the video, but it does say Farmville police declined to comment on the case, citing the ongoing investigation. And let me be clear about something. That is something we always hear. Can't comment, it's an ongoing investigation. Then they said exactly what happened the day Gilbert ended up in the water remains unclear. Initially, Gilbert's friends told his mother, Yolanda George, that her son had fallen in before allegedly switching up their story and admitting to pushing him during horseplay. All right. So for all my law enforcement buddies, I want to ask the question. If it began with a story that he slipped and fell in, but they later admitted that there was some horseplay and he was pushed in during the horseplay, isn't that at minimum, once they have admitted it, grounds to say that it was that there was some culpability to his condition? Let me see what Cassandra's saying. He said, it said they were horseplaying and the young lady admitted to pushing him. The group also stated they did not know he could swim. They did not know he could not swim. I believe it was just an unfortunate circumstance. However, they still should have helped him, in her opinion. All right. Now, Legal Beagle, let me ask this question. If the person who wound up in the water, who they left for 10 minutes and did not provide any assistance, although they have all been stated that they could swim, if it is said by the individual who they thought was going to be brain dead once he came out the coma, if he says, I was pushed in the water, and he himself is not admitting that there was horseplay, then my question would be, is law enforcement accepting the horseplay theory because of the fact that it suits a position that does not require them to hold someone accountable? Because according to this, it says video from the day appears to show the friends standing idly by while Gilbert was in the water. The friends also allegedly insisted they had no idea he couldn't swim, which the family doesn't buy because they said everyone knows Chris can't swim. So let me ask this question. Chris said, charge them. They should be responsible for the harm they cause. I agree. Cassandra said, no, they have to investigate it. Now, Cassandra, as you know, I am a friend of law enforcement, and I agree that they have to have some time to investigate. But I think when you have video evidence, I think when this occurred April the 14th, and it is almost May the 14th, you had witnesses on the dock, you had camera views, and now you have an alleged victim who is capable of saying what he remembered from the incident. You don't think 30 days is enough time to come to a decision as to whether or not it is more likely than not, based on the video evidence and the statement of the individuals along with the story changing? Because for me, once you begin changing your story, then I have to look and determine credibility. That's just a perspective. All right. Now, I want to know, Chris said they wouldn't have to wonder if he could swim if they hadn't pushed him. I concur. Chris makes a valid argument. If you did not know that he could not swim, then it at least goes to, let me see what Cassandra said. Even with the video and witnesses, you still have to determine what is fact on both sides. Well, Cassandra, let me ask you this. From a legal perspective, ignorance to both the law and the circumstances is not a justification for your act. Meaning, if I put my hands on you and something occurs, it's at minimum assault. If it was unwanted, while you could say that somebody was horseplaying, if that's what they want to do to marginalize the amount of impact, but at minimum, it was assault. Because I can be talking to you and saliva from my mouth touch you, and you can file a charge of assault because saliva from my mouth gets on you if it was an unwanted conversation. I know that to be factual. I just looked at a case like that. The second thing, Legal Beagle, I want to get your view on is if your defense includes we did not know he could not swim, then that tells me you never asked him if he could swim, which means you equally did not know if he could. If I accept you didn't know if he could not, then I equally have to hold you accountable, because before you were horse playing and decided you were going to allegedly push somebody toward or in the water, you should have known whether or not they could swim. It's not enough to say I didn't know he couldn't, because that assumes every person in the world can swim and that he would have been an anomaly. Is that a fair assessment? Because what it appears is I don't know if our minority brothers and sisters are buying that it would take nearly 30 days to come to a decision as to whether or not there was any level of culpability on the part of the pusher, if the pusher in question had been black and the alleged victim had been white. Now, I know what some of you will say. Some of you will say, had he not been hanging out with his group of alleged white friends? Let me stop you right there. While many of you don't exist in that space, there are a lot of groups of people where there is one individual who is different in terms of skin color, race, demeanor, or otherwise. So simply having all white friends is not a crime. Maybe you don't get around well with people who look like you. There's nothing wrong with it. And we should not be using the fact that he chose to hang out. Now, because I need you guys to process something. Chris was an aspiring doctor, meaning he was a medical student. All right. So if he is a medical student, Cassandra said there are too many questions and not enough answers. You have to let the legal process do its job. And Cassandra, I'm our little legal beagle. I am not at odds with the legal community having the proper amount of time. I'm just curious as to why they never need this length of time when the alleged victim is of Anglo-Saxon descent. Because I truly believe that if it was as alleged, horse playing around, and you charge someone with criminal mischief, or you charge someone with the lowest level of assault, and you decide to let a jury determine the facts of the case, I believe everybody could live with that. I think the challenge is it is difficult for people in the minority community to accept that it takes more than 30 days when you got videos and you got the alleged victim who is now capable and telling his own story, saying, yeah, we was out there chilling and then she intentionally pushed me in the water. And yet again, Cassandra, the other part of that is, if you pushed your friend in the water and you're capable of swimming, and so are the other people around you, and none of you jumped in the water? Really? You admitted that it was horseplay. You admitted that you and others could swim, but nothing made you jump. None of you all jump in the water to save him for more than 10 minutes. See, sometimes if it's got webbed feet, white feathers, orange-looking beak, and quacking, sometimes a duck is what it is. Cassandra said, I do not think it's about race. It's about accountability and who is responsible for someone being injured. Well, Legal Beagle, I agree that the incident was not racially motivated. I believe if they didn't like him, they just didn't like him. Maybe he had made somebody angry. Maybe it was a plot or a plan. Maybe it was as innocent as horseplay. But what I do think has a racial overtone to it is the way law enforcement is handling it. I'm not implying that the young lady pushed him because he was black. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they didn't jump in because he was black. Not saying that. I am saying, because I believe that is more likely that there was some negative animosity that crept up and that this was certainly played a role in it, but I don't think race did. But I think on behalf of law enforcement that we can go to enough examples of cases where minorities who are accused of certain crimes within days are arrested and charged, even if they're released on bail. We've seen where law enforcement seems to give benefit of the doubt. The legal system seems to give benefit of the doubt when the alleged assailant happens to be Caucasian and the alleged defendant or victim happens to be a minority. That is what drives a community to believing it is about race. So I think two things can be true. Whatever this was, horseplay, intentional or otherwise, probably had zero to do with race and probably somebody that just didn't like something that was said or done at some point. But I believe the response time and the benefit of the doubt that is provided to some versus others is directly attached to race and public perception. If that makes any sense. Because I believe that no person in the legal community wants to arrest a group of aspiring young white doctors for horseplay and damage their careers, especially when the individual who happens to be the victim and who is now recovering is a minority. I just don't think that they have the stomach for how the public perception is to allegedly impact the careers or potential careers of a few Anglo-Saxon medical students, all because of an injured African-American aspiring doctor. All right? Look, people, it's time for me to get up off this air. I appreciate y'all going down memory lane with me tonight. Don't y'all be fooled by some of the information. Taya did not work. She was a crybaby. She ain't go out there in them fields. But we're going to holler at y'all next week. And for all you mothers out there, have a wonderful Mother's Day this weekend. It's about that time, baby.